Apparently you ain't living a life so there before you classify as a Negro. They're going to sell you. And they're going to take your stuff too. So now we got to correct this. You understand? In other words, like, once you understand what nationality is, how it actually functions, it changes how you approach everything. You don't wait till the train hits the wall and then start figuring out how come the train hit the wall, because nationality is supposed to prevent a lot of Negro injuries that come to our people that out of ignorance they keep calling racism, which is really the secret treaty of Rome and the discovery doctrine. That's why you're given your nationality, to take you out of that classification, to stop the injuries. That's why I say what? When you study, he says, I've traveled south and studied and looked at my people and it's the life they lived that caused their injury. But they don't, you have to understand what's really happening. By us agreeing to be Negro, Black, and colors, like for instance, if you knew that stuff was on that document, if you didn't know certain things, you didn't assume that it's an issue of misclassification so they could do shit to you. It's just now hit the fan now. The Negro Acts, that's what they're instituting Negro Acts on. That's why they're garnishing your pay. They can't do that to a national. That's why you're giving your nationality, but apparently you didn't enforce it. However, the fact that it is on the record, you have an argument. And you better argue it, because if you don't, you're done. You understand what I'm saying? Because as a Negro, you've got no argument, because you have no rights as a Negro. Moorish American, you got rights, international law. You're supposed to know that. You're supposed to know what I just showed you, because that's what your nationality brings to you. Now, I want you to look up status. Status. And this is back to, even if you're dealing with cases or you're trying to help people, if they don't have a knowledge of what's going on, limited what you can do. Because what the Europeans are going to do, they're going to cordon anybody that helps him off and keep him amongst themselves. And they're going to be his counsel. They're not going to let any counsel deal with him, particularly if he don't have sense enough to transfer power of attorney on his own. And then they're going to auction him. And he'd be thinking, because they said this and that, none of that is even the issue. You're going to be talking the wrong subject. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? But I'm taking advantage of this too, because it's an opportunity to teach, a teaching opportunity. Because it's best when you have real situations, because then you can show how this information applies, rather than just data, And this is where you get these little subtleties. Is once you begin to recognize them, you recognize what the great sellout is, and you also recognize why some people was upset with Malcolm when he found this out. And when they couldn't buy him off, they murdered him, because this principle applies to universally, where our people think it's just with Moorish Americans behind the withdrawal. This is universal around the world. That's right. You know what I mean? And so all these so-called black groups are sellouts. The followers don't know that, right? If you get the point. Yeah. Because they be thinking that stuff is, because everybody's saying black and equating it with Hotep and Maat and Egypt and all that stuff. Yeah. And as soon as they did that, they put them under the Christian black code. They played them. You understand what I'm saying? When the status is everything. Now I want you to read status. Read it out loud.
Status.
Now pay attention to this.
Standing. State or condition.
Standing, state, or condition. Continue.
Reynolds versus Pennsylvania.
No, leave the law case out. Those are reference points. But read the substance of the principle of law. It is the legal relationship. Read.
The legal relationship of individual to the rest of the community.
You can put the "thes" back in, because remember it's law book, so it's condensed. So it is the legal relationship of the individual in relation to the rest of the community. So you're dealing with what? A position, a rank. Continue to read.
The rights.
It is the rights.
Duties.
The duties.
Capacities.
The capacities. And the incapacities. You got to be aware of this.
Which determines a person to a given place.
All right? So now there's a class system going on, and our people sit around talking about prejudice. It's a class system, and you have a responsibility to know that. After all, we keep talking about we know what Jesus, God, Allah, Moses, and Muhammad's doing, so we certainly should know what's going on the planet. Our mothers and fathers are the founders of civilization, so we should certainly know the rules. And if you don't know the rules, you're in contempt. And we're the direct descendants of the founders of civilization, talking all kind of hotep stuff, and don't know the rules of society. Therefore, no one respects anybody who brands themselves black in dishonor of their own mothers and fathers. This is where our problem comes in, which means these fundamentals, if you're national, you're supposed to already know this stuff. Because that distinguishes a national from pride. Because it is your duty and responsibility to enforce constitutional law. It's not an option. You know, and these are principles that must be taught. And I'm just telling you that because to help you, I have to leave you with something that you can work for yourself. It's not about a followership. You understand what I'm saying to you? You must be capable of your own. In other words, the distinction between minority and a national is a minority, no matter how grown they are, considered boys and girls, because they're incapable of representing themselves. So another man must represent them. At that time, they become cardboard. And if you speak, you're in contempt. If you're a national, you're supposed to be able to speak for yourself. So therefore, you're supposed to already know these things. You see the point? Now, I want you to read that out and make sure you read all the way down the bottom. And then absorb what it's telling you, then we can continue discussing these other things. So this stuff, different things that are said to you make sense to you. Go ahead.
A legal personal relationship.
It is, put in the conjunctions. Go ahead.
A legal personal relationship, not temporary in its nature, nor terminable, but the mere will of the parties, with which third persons of the state were concerned. While term implies relationship, it is not a mere relationship. It also means a state.
So status also means estate, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Now, when they're going into your property, they're going into your estate. Did you know you had an estate? See the question? So now, if you don't even know you got an estate, then that makes you incompetent. And if you're incompetent, they're going to treat you as a minor. They're going to take over, and then they're going to sell you out, and they're going to steal while they're doing it. This is what's happening. So our interest, and the reason you're here, is that you're trying to prevent it. So I'm trying to tell you, you need to know what you're trying to prevent. You need to know, you understand, because what you're going to do is you're going to start talking to people and you're going to walk right into the jurisdictions constantly. Like somebody tells you shit on the floor, you say, see right here, that's not peanut butter, that's shit, that's shit. And you're going to go, oh yeah, man, because we need help. That's what my brother bought me. Squidge. And this is what's going to happen to you. So I'm giving you, and that's why I'm telling you to read it. I'm not reading it to you, I'm telling you to read it. So you can look at what's been happening to you and you can actually see it from a legal perspective. Because as you can see, now complete, read that out. And then let's talk. It also means a state, doesn't it?
Because it signifies the condition or circumstances in which one stands with regard to his property.
So now you see what that nigger status does? And why you're Moorish American, why Nobel gave you back your name, your titles, your nationality, and he also said if you don't do anything else, declare your nationality. But if you don't know this, you wouldn't know the importance of the statement, would you?
No.
Now you're beginning to see the importance of the statement. And that's been around here 100 years and people are still miscalculating what that man brought to us. See the problem? Most of us worshiping him rather than paying attention to what he brought. And nationals and going through life, and now you're retiring and getting beat up with Negro acts. That should never damn happen. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Because you already have protection and you ain't entertaining it. Because you didn't know to entertain it. You probably just approach it because it was a historical correction. You see the problem? But when it starts injuring you, you can't sit back. You know, you're forced to act.
Yes.
Down, you're forced to act with no tools. You're forced to learn what you should have learned years ago. Now you understand when he set up the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, he registered as a civic organization in 1925. And then he later in 28 adopted a religious affidavit and he used the Moorish Science Temple as its corporate name to transact business in the state law. So now, if you've never addressed it, it's like blank. It's almost like, you know, we come here with a box of cereal, right? Box of cereal. Oh man, they got the big box, boy. You know, and they're sitting up there, and we sitting up here all the time. Now it's ready to go eat some cereal. Oh yeah, man, you got some rice milk, man. I'm gonna eat the cereal now. I'm gonna go in the box. It's big and beautiful, but it's empty. And this is what's happening. Got a nationality with an empty vessel. I'm showing you to show you the injury that you have and why it's happening to you. I'm letting you see it yourself. If you recognize what you just read. I smell gas. You smell gas?
Yes. Over there.
Hmm?
I'll find out.
Yeah, smell it big time. So what do I do at this point?
We're going to discuss, but we're going to study. I told you already, even before we went there, but I want to make sense to you when I said, whatever you have, everything you have, make 3 copies of it.
Right.
Right? You want to sit down and modulate. I mean, you sit down and counsel. And you're going to go over it and you're going to find all the points of law that are violations, all the contradictions. You're going to get all the bond numbers of anyone you talk to. Don't be talking about no corporation. Talk about the persons who talk to you. Don't talk about people you don't know. Let them be subpoenaed. If they made a claim against you, you have a right to face your accuser. If somebody's taken from you, they've accused you of something.
That person that sat there and said,
Yeah, go on.
you were in the Moorish thing.
They don't have the option to ignore that.
1972.
And the deal is, they don't have the option to ignore that. And yet she said,
Right.
according to what he said, that's a violation of international law. But he's supposed to know that.
So you in
Yeah.
other words, you subpoena the people you can talk to and whose names are on.
That's exactly right. We don't talk about the courts.
You can talk to who's ever there.
Islam.
Those who are representing,
Yeah.
they're like representatives.
Yeah.
Those are the ones you bring because
Yeah.
the real entity doesn't exist.
Exactly. It's a fiction. Y'all got papers and pencil? Huh? Can you share? Islam. Can you share? Since y'all here, let's start official. Let's start official.
Okay.
Now, I'm glad to see you all, especially sisters. And so we're going to have you participate a little bit, all right, on certain things, to make sure your concept is correct, all right, about why you're here, what this is really about, and how it functions. And the reason we're going to have you participate a little bit is so that it doesn't do this. You understand? Some of you already know, according to the degree that you're on. Some of you may be out of interest. You know what I mean? But we don't want it to go like that. We want you to function with this information. All right? Islam. We're going to open meeting. You already know about Resolution 75, right? As an example. All right, this is really interesting. Really interesting.
You need anything up
We're
here?
going to deal. That chair over here. You bring that chair over here and all this stuff over here.
What?
Now, yeah, this is because the one you passed. Now, Islam, everybody introduce yourself. Taj Tarik Bey.
Delilah, pass that you.
Makula Maddox.
J.W. Bay.
Lois Morgan Hill. That's my
Sorry. All right, Islam. Now, do you know why you're here? You know what this is about in general? All right.
Yeah.
What's it in general? Speak so we can hear you on camera.
Oh,
Yeah, you're on the camera.
Claiming my nationality that I guess, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and understanding what it is,
and
how it functions. Yeah. Earlier, we were actually having a conversation on its function, which is very important. But again, it's important to really not just know your nationality. It's important to know how it functions in society, why it's done. A lot of times people do things because of historical facts or things that have to be corrected. And they appreciate that and respect that, but fail to understand the legal implications. And this is where we get into it. All right? So we want to, I see the board, but yeah, we got markers.
Yes.
Now, essentially, so I'm going to write a theme. Can you get that from that angle? You can get this?
Let me try around this one.
I'm going to make an easel. Y'all, I'm going to build an easel later on for y'all to be.
Setting my hat one, so we'll have one for the next meeting.
Yeah, I'm a serious easel. The ones they make, like right on the board goes over here.
I know what you're talking about.
It's going like
right.
that.
You're gonna be over here for a while?
Huh?
You'll be right
Yeah, that's fine. Principle. This is principle what we're talking about.
Ain't no black?
Hmm?
There's no black marker?
I don't have a black marker. That's all.
All right, okay. All right, I'll deal with it.
Oh, because they got pink. I don't know why they're pink. Pastels. Excuse my scribble. Now, this is essentially what we're talking about. You or two already have known that, but understood the nuances, the function in society. This is where we're entered, and our people get a little bit aware of nationality from a historical perspective, and it's interesting, and they approach it because they respect that a historical wrong has been done, unfortunately, usually looking at it just from that perspective, and then passionately wanting to correct it because it's BS. Not understanding there's legal, political, economic, and social implications every step of the way. It wasn't accidental. It was created, it's a corpse that was created to slay the living. Fact. In 1868, when they closed the Freedmen's Bureau, they created the 14th Amendment spuriously, never properly ratified. This was used to bureaucratize forced servitude, which is connotatively referred to as slavery. It was bureaucratized via the 14th Amendment. If you don't know law and history, logically the average person is not aware of that, so they don't know its function and don't take it seriously. They may look at it loosely in history and then go on about their business. And it's like Harriet Tubman said, one of the most difficult things to do is to free a slave who don't know they're slaves. This is where our problem is. And this is actually what I'm presenting to you, good brother, and why I had you go to the law book rather than just tell you and accept you to accept what I'm saying. And this is actually what I'm presenting to you, good brother, And why have you go to the law book rather than just tell you and accept you to accept what I'm saying? Because it is totally different when it becomes your own. Interesting. He's been nationalized how many years? When were you nationalized?
72.
72. And they're younger than, he's been nationalized longer than they're living sitting there. Imagine the injury. He's being nationalized now. Do you get the point? Because nationality is not just a political fact. It is a consciousness that goes with it. And if you're absent of the consciousness, you're not nationalized. It doesn't mean it's not your bloodline. Indeed, it's your bloodline. You understand? And you have an estate. But most of our people are not, as I was asking you, that they even have an estate. They don't even know what a state is. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? But I'm saying that overall, because actually I'm talking to you all, and I'm talking to him too, because we were having a conversation earlier, because we're actually dealing with some actual legal processes in the process. So that's the conversation is based on that. And it's an opportunity to teach you all certain things too. All right, now, Sister Shy. Can you come and help us and read something? If you don't mind. Now, taking advantage of the opportunity of her response, right? So everybody named themselves again. All right, so now you're going to help us out, right? Now, when you were going to school, which they do, most of us, right? They told you that George Washington was the first president, right? Now, unless you knew different, that's your perspective. Am I correct? Now, we can assume that that same perspective is with most of our people, both adults and children, right? So now let's talk about a distinct disadvantage that our people have that out of ignorance we've been calling racism. Race is the human species. You know that, right? So race is the human species. Now, so if we use that as an attitude, the word is misclassified and therefore we're incompetent. However, we have a tendency to use it that way, don't we? Now we have no standing in law. So what I'm going to have you do, this is what we're going to imagine. All these empty chairs here are little children. I know you like little children. And so right now we got like grade schoolers, you know, like 3rd grade, 4th, 5th, 6th, like that. And so what you're assigned is as an assistant teacher. So you're going to talk accordingly, right? Right? Now, all of them are under the impression that Georgie was the first president. And remember, their parents do too. They think that too. Do you understand? Now, in law, their parents are considered boys and girls too. Therefore, they will be classified as minorities, which means adults with minor minds. They don't know that because they think it means numbers. It's legal status. All right, all right? So you're going to get ready. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to do class. And you do tree book.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. A lot with your technical skills and abilities, technically speaking.
Yeah.
Now, this you will not find in your ordinary school books. However, this can be found in your documents of American history, right? And you're going to read it to the class. Now, imagine, see back there, see where the tables are? So we got about 4 or 5 children back there, so you want to make sure they're here, all right? All right? All right. Now, you want to read, and you're going to read dates and times, right? Right? Now, read that. And he said, Documents of American History. You see George Washington? What does he have on? What's that? Oh, well, that's an apron. It's compass and a square because he's a Mason. Now, I want you to read everything you see. Now, make sure the children hear it. Now, I'm in the audience. I'm one of the children because I'm disinterested. I'm playing around, right? So you got to bring my attention. So you tell everybody, all right, stop playing. Listen. Go ahead, teach. Go ahead.
Letters from George Washington to Muhammad ibn Abdullah.
Read with authority. You're the teacher. Now, I'm gonna give you a lesson. Because you're a little bit shy, don't be shy because you're with family. Right? Right?
Yes. Yes.
And we
Yes. Yes. We're all your family.
We all
We're all your family.
You're going to teach the baby. This is a grand opportunity.
You got a beautiful smile.
Keep this in mind in law, back to the culture. This is the particular time that particularly women should be distinctly taught. Even if you were not producing a body, you're still producing forms when you cycle by the moon.
Okay.
When you teach within. And when that child comes here, that child will be educated. Think that way. All right? 3 on 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Think on 3. All right? All right, now, read with authority, mother. Use your ankh. Go ahead.
Letter from George Washington to Muhammad Ibn Abdullah,
Sultan,
Sultan of Morocco, City of New Jersey, December 1st, 1789. Great and
magnanimous,
magnanimous friend, since the date of the letter which the late Congress by their president addressed to your Imperial Majesty, the United States of America has thought proper to change their government and institute a new one, agreeable to the Constitution of which I have the honor herewith to enclose a copy.
continue. Now, as you can see with the first paragraph, in the first sentence, he already tells you about the late Congress and the late president. Immediately, with his own words, you can see he wasn't the first president. So you can already see that our people have been miseducated. You see how simple that is? This is what everybody else knows about the history here that our people don't know. Persons who are held as Negroes, blacks, and coloreds are not afforded this information because they're considered property, no different than a cow. Their mistreatment is because they're held outside of the constitutional fold of government, held as property and not as human beings, and treated accordingly. Therefore, this information is not afforded to them because they are servants to the occupying Europeans who have been pretending to be Americans. They are not. Are we clear?
Yes.
This is your history, and you're standing on your own land. Look at the cover. Do you recognize that? Now, so she doesn't even recognize her own birthright. You see the point? This is the disadvantage that our people have. Are we clear? You ever read the United States Constitution, the Republic Constitution? Article 6. Now, the Constitution is what? The supreme law of the land, right? All right, Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Now, I'm going to repeat this to you, and tell me what is your consideration. All debts contracted and entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be binding against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. And all treaties made or which shall be made in pursuance thereof shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges of every state shall be bound thereby, and any laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. And that's the first part. Then we talk about the representatives, all the representatives, legislator, etc., right? Are bound, right? Now, now, do you understand that the treaty and the Constitution are one document and the supreme law of the land? So are you aware of the treaty that you have in your hand? Now you see the disadvantage that we have? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And this is back, sis, to what nationality is. To retie you politically to your estate, because we've been disconnected and therefore have been forced into a status that we don't belong, and we've been consistently injured by European occupiers that we have confused as Americans. When we're the Americans, they're the foreigners. Do you understand? And a lot of the injury, the poverty, the economic suppression comes from our lack of knowing this, because we're listed as being incompetent. And therefore, wards of the state and all estates go to the estate, and therefore our families never develop what you call loosely old money, because they're not allowed to gain anything. And this is why they can come in our communities and do gentrification. You know, our people spend all their life so-called thinking they're buying a house, they're listed as a tenant because they can't read. Then they come and take the houses and do prime beef loans to us, and then come back and take the houses because they know our people can't read. Do you understand what's happening? So this is to inform you, to give you some concepts. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to read this, and I'm going to read this with authority. And in the future, that's what you're going to do. You don't read shy. You know what I mean? Look me in the eye. Because you're going to have to rule here. And that baby got to come to some civilized society. So what we got to do is make sure when that child comes here, that child has some protection.
That's right.
Just like you must have.
That's right. That's
You
right.
understand? Put your chin up.
That's
Wasn't
right.
it beautiful?
Yes.
You understand? And think that way. When that baby comes, that baby's coming educated, all right? Now I'm going to read this thoroughly, then we're going to go over this a little bit. I want you to pay attention to the details, all right? Because in the future, we'll make sure you have a copy of this, all right? All right. Give sister a hand for help.
Yeah.
You're going to produce some real children for real in the future, so don't think that you're going to get away with this. All right, thank you, sister. All right. Now, I want you to pay attention to this. I want you to pay attention to this because you've already had this, and keep in mind that you're national before she was even born. Now she's bringing new family here, and you can see how the generations are injured for a lack of knowledge. Do you understand? So I'm going to read this, and I'll pay attention to every detail, and feel free to critique this, analyze this, all right? This is from the documents of American history. This is for anybody that wants to do some cross-reference or research, right? Talk about fingerprints.
Let me wash your glasses off.
Anyway. From documents of American history. This is a letter from George Washington, the 9th president. Did you know that? The 9th president. Tell the baby. To Muhammad ibn Abdullah, Sultan of Morocco, City of New York, December the 1st, 1789. Grade school, civics. When was George Washington appointed to the palace? What is the date? Now keep this in mind, we're all adults here, right? Because y'all gotta teach children. So if y'all don't know, what chance do the next generations have? See the problem that we're in? We don't even know the basic history of the noun, but yet we talk about Jesus, God, Allah, and Muhammad. And when God's gonna kick the devil's butt on Thursday, be there at 5th and Market, all that kind of stuff. See our problem? Talk about Ma and Hotep and everything. Don't even know the fundamental rules of where we live, where we domicile, put that way, because you live in your body. Get the point? We're at a distinct disadvantage compared to others, and the reason why we can't compete because we're miseducated. You understand? And a lot of times our people get Afrocentric and think that that makes them educated. It does not. That means it's data. If it cannot be properly categorized, it's data, and it remains data. We want to take it above that stage so that we can function with the information. Do you understand? This is, again, why we're here, why we're doing what we're doing. So we're telling you why we're doing what we're doing. You know, when it's not going to blindside you or have you assume. We're telling you why we're doing what we're doing. Because we need to correct some things to make our people functional. Because what's happening, thank you, sis. What's happening is that we're educated illiterates. That's what's happening with our people. And it's unfortunate, and we have to correct it. Of course, we've got to get past egos and stuff like that, too, and really deal with what's really going on. Because we're being injured by the day unnecessarily. You understand? So I'm going to read the letter in entirety. Take notes, if you will. Critique it, and then we're going to break it down a little bit to show you things, and I'm going to make points on our earlier discussion. All right, so absorb this, teach the baby, Let's make sure that baby comes out and is administrator, not looking for some jewel.
You want me to move the cord? I can move the cord over here.
This is fine.
All right.
That's fine. Letter from George Washington, Muhammad ibn Abdullah, Sultan of Morocco, City of New York, December the 1st, 1789. So this is December at the time that this letter was drafted by George Washington, sent to the Sultan of Morocco, City of New York. He has been in office since April the 30th. So as you can understand, he's been in office for a matter of months. Are we clear? At the time of this writing. Great and magnanimous friends, since the date of the letter, which the late Congress, by their president, addressed to your Imperial Majesty, the United States of America have thought proper to change their government and institute a new one agreeable to the Constitution, of which I have the honor herewith to enclose a copy. The time necessarily employed in the arduous task and the disarrangements occasioned by so great, though peaceable, a revolution will apologize and account for your Majesty's not having received those regularly advised marks of attention from the United States, which the friendship and magnanimity of your conduct toward them afforded reason to expect. The United States having unanimously appointed me to supreme executive authority in this nation, your Majesty's letter of August the 17th, 1788, which by reason of the dissolution of the late government remained unanswered, has been delivered to me, and I have also received the letters which your Imperial Majesty has been so kind as to write in favor of the United States to the Bashars of Tunis and Tripoli, and I present to you the sincere acknowledgments and thanks of the United States for this important mark of your friendship for them. Pay attention to these next paragraphs. We greatly regret the hostile disposition of those regencies toward this nation who have never injured them is not to be removed on terms of our power to comply with. Within our territories there are no mines, whether of gold or silver, and this young nation, just recovering from the waste and dissolution of a long war, have not as yet had time to acquire riches by agriculture and commerce, but our soil is bountiful and our people industrious, and we have reason to flatter ourselves that we shall gradually become useful to our friends. The encouragement with which your Majesty has been pleased generously to give to our commerce with your dominions, the punctuality with which you have caused the treaty with us to be observed, and the just and generous measures taken in the case of Captain Proctor make a deep impression on the United States and confirm their respect for and attachment to your Imperial Majesty. It gives me great pleasure to have the opportunity of assuring your Majesty that while I remain at the head of this nation, I shall not cease to promote every measure that may conduce to the friendship and harmony which so happily subsists between your empire and them, and shall esteem myself happy in every occasion of convincing your Majesty of the high sense which in common with the whole nation I entertain the magnanimity, wisdom, and benevolence of your Majesty. May the Almighty bless your Imperial Majesty, our great and magnanimous friend, with his constant guidance and protection, signed George Washington. That letter reveals so much history and so much politics, but if you don't know history and law, it'll go like this. What do you recognize in this letter? Go ahead, the floor is open. Particularly concerned, contrary to what the average person out there, particularly amongst us, think about this, both this nation and about the politics here. What is it that this letter exposes?
Is he apologizing?
Say it again?
Like apologizing?
You're talking a little louder.
I said, but it sounded like he was kind of like apologizing.
Yeah, because they couldn't keep up the taxes, yes. What else?
And he clearly realized that.
No, what is exposed is, yeah, let's cut through the chase. What is exposed is that this land is Morocco. They couldn't keep up with the taxes. The United States is an appendage of the Moorish Empire. What has happened in history that's got our people confused? They've been overthrown and branded Negro, Black, and Colored Indians, and they ain't figured this stuff out yet. Think they came from someplace else in their home. They're part and parcel of this said government, don't even know it. Therefore, they don't know that the estate and the wealth here is really theirs. and they're poor, going through all kinds of sufferings for nothing because they don't know themselves. And then those who get national don't even know how to entertain what it is because their concepts about what it is wrong. Therefore, we're incompetent in doing all kinds of suffering and looking at all kind of Ma'at and Hotep stuff to try to solve the problem mentally, and we ain't solving nothing politically. You get the point? Makes us subject to the Negro codes because we're not outside of them. Status, because it must be known, because you can't serve two masters. Do you understand? Now, of course, being fair, because our attention spans are limited. And most of the time when things are read, we obtain or we retain some of it, but for the most part, it pretty much goes past us. We're hearing and it goes past us. If you broke this down, you could see more than what I just told you, but that much is quite evident. I'm going to read paragraph, say, 5 again. Now, pay attention to this again. The fourth, yeah. Let's see what paragraph that would call that. Yeah. Yeah, 5. The encouragement with which your majesty has been pleased generously to give to our commerce with your dominions. So how many people, Asiatics here, don't know that these dominions are the Moorish Empire? You didn't know that? Now you do. So that gives you a little bit more insight of what nationality is. And because it's a consciousness, because you must be reconnected to your estate to even know that you have one. So what happens if our people don't know they're Moorish and they call themselves black? Don't think it's an identity, not knowing it's a brand. They've abandoned their birthright. For lack of knowledge.
They're thinking Africa and here is 2 different places.
Yes, and this is Northwest Africa.
This is
Northwest Africa.
right.
You understand what I'm saying to you?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, but make it loud so that everybody
Okay,
can.
I'm sorry. Maybe I might need, because a lot of times, you was talking.
Yeah, just be
you
direct.
talking about scriptures, and the scripture that come to mind is the story of the 2 brothers. Was it
Esau and Yaqub.
Yaqub.
The 25th chapter of the book of Genesis. Yeah, with the theft of the birthright. They sold the birthright for a bowl of red pottage. They're also telling you that in the Wizard of Oz, where the tribe of Judah, the lion, symbol of Judah, ain't got no heart. And then you got the straw man, which was created in 1868 with the 14th Amendment that created the straw man, the corpse. That's the corpse. And then it give it the legal definition of person, then classified persons called Negro, black, and colored, and then cribbed all the industry, tin man. You see? Then the yellow brick road, Zodiac Constitution right in the courtyard, right there in City Hall. Law of the Moors. Then the Mummers Parade, which is a celebration of the fall of the Moors. And then the people around don't even know what they're looking at. Except people who are Masons or Europeans, but the Asiatics don't even know what they're looking at. Celebration of their own fall. And they get dressed, with all that big parade, right? They assemble at 6 and Moore Street. They even do it symbolically. You know what I mean? And so the deal with it is, logically, if you don't know the history, all of this stuff, it happens every day and it goes whoosh. And the people see no relationship because they're not connected. They're mentally disassociated. They're just living, they're just working, they're just workers. They don't know their cattle. And they're treated accordingly. Of course, because we have pride, they give you dogma to hide behind. And the dogma is counterfeit religion. And so most people think, they hide behind their beliefs and think that they got this salvation that doesn't exist. While their families are falling apart and babies are dying younger and younger on the streets. And, we're hypocrites, but because so many people are doing it, we feel comfortable with our hypocrisy. As soon as somebody get together and start talking Afrocentricity, it gives us a sense of security. It's a sense of security, not a reality of security. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Because when you go out into the real world, there has no function. It's not good, brother. All right. And this is back to the advantage that you have that was not recognized. Do you understand? See, because this, essentially you should have been already exercising this from as soon as this stuff started. And without even this, it should come right from here. Come right from your heart. Because you're supposed to know yourself. And when they see that you don't, might treat you even worse. Because they have more contempt for somebody that has it and don't use it than they have for somebody that know nothing at all. Not all the time, but very often. And then the other, because it's such a threat, they're going to make sure that you don't entertain, because Susie ain't going to college if you start exercising your right. It's not, because I'll tell you already, somebody's paying their mortgage off what they're stealing from you. They are. In case you didn't know that. Speak louder so we can hear.
The mummers. What is mummer?
Mum? You say mum. Mum is the word. What does it mean? Silence. Mockery. All right. Now, up until the good administration, they used to do the mummers parade in what they call blackface. Now, they may not remember because they're young, but they used to, put coal on their face, coal oil, and they used to do, march into good administration. But see, Mayor Good was also a secretary in the Moorish Science Company. He knew the history. And after like that, about 85, somewhere around there, they stopped doing it. And so, unless people have a background in history, a lot of the youth forget it. Like you're all being young, you lose reference points. But the elders, we have that memory. We know what it is. Although a lot of them don't know why, unless they're scholars, they know they did. Let me present this to you. Can you come up for a minute? I didn't bring no bags and stuff, but the interesting thing on the way out, I just grabbed this. We'll show you how things, just fall right in place.
Right.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yes. It's divine.
Now read that. And I want you to see this. So y'all can, remember you got to protect her or shit like that. Do you know the rules? Applied science is this. When a woman was a child, you protect her more than ever. And keep everybody, any confusion from around them. Mm-hmm. Right? What's your sign? What's your sign? What constellation did your mother bring you here under? Taurus. Taurus? Oh, you pretty good money, huh? Anyway. But seriously, so what you want to do, you want to calculate when you conceive. Your cycle, right? Because you cycle 13 times a year, your cycle. Measure the cycle, measure what you are. Put them together, do a chart reading, and then educate your child in the womb according to the cycle when she's coming out. And she'll be educated. All right. Now, this particularly is General Assembly of Pennsylvania's file of the House of Representatives. This was issued, this was around 1933. And keep this in mind, this is really interesting too, Delilah, because for those of you who are aware of House Joint Resolution 192, how many are aware of House Joint Resolution 192 with the dissolution of the seats of government? I know that you are. Raise your hand. Anyway. Well, if you'll notice, now keep that in mind, that was June the 5th, 1933, with the House Joint Resolution. And you'll notice this is April 17th, 1933, right? Mm-hmm. Now this is 1933, House Joint Resolution, and you'll give this back to me. Now after you read, I want you to take it and share with them so they let them see it anyway. And I want you to read with the same authority. Remember, the children are back there at the other. And you can get in front of the camera and,
Moorish American Society of Philadelphia.
You'll read everything at the House Joint Resolution. The resolution.
Resolution number 75, Mr. Whitman in place April 17th, 1933, Moorish American Society of Philadelphia, and the use of their names. Many sons and daughters that are proud and handsome race which inspired the architecture of Northern Africa and carried into Spain the influence of his artistic temperament have become citizens of this nation. In the city of Philadelphia, there exists a Moorish American society made up of Moors who have found here the end of their quest for a home of the children of those who journeyed here from the plains of Morocco. This society has done much to bring about and thorough absorption by these people of those principles which are necessary to make them good American citizens. These Moorish Americans have since being here missed the use of the titles and name annexations that were so familiar at home and which were used in accordance with the doctrines of the religious faith to which they are adherents. Therefore, be it resolved that this House commends the Moorish American Society of Philadelphia for the efficient service it has rendered the nation in bringing about a speedy, thorough Americanization of these former Moors, that in ordinance with the fullest rights of religious and independence, guaranteed every citizen we recognize also the right of these people to use the name, affixes El, Ali, or Bey, or any other prefix or suffix to which they have heretofore been accustomed to use, or which they may hereafter require the right to use. On the question, will the House adopt the resolution? It was adopted.
Now, as you can see, before anybody in this room, even though it's already known, as you can see, it's already established in the journals of the records of the House of Representatives, right in Philadelphia, right where they took your birthright. Now, logically, people should know this, shouldn't they? But you also know that many people don't. Do you understand? And so a lot of times when people begin to hear this information and begin to gravitate to it, if they're not told that this is actually a social political forum, they have a tendency to think it's a belief system, which makes them incompetent. And then many people who may teach this information will teach it from that perspective. If it's some belief system that you got to go to a temple and worship type thing, is a misconception. Doesn't mean that, if that's what you need to do, you can do that too, but that has nothing to do with the birthright. This is a bloodline birthright. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes.
And then if you don't know that, logically, you have a tendency not to approach it accordingly and have the body of information, which is law, jurisprudence, to accommodate your activities every day in all your political and social affairs. Your failure to do so logically misclassifies you, which is what they did. They misclassified you. Not totally accidental. It's on two fronts. One, because economically it's to their disadvantage. To your disadvantage and to their advantage. Because every time they classify you as Negro, Black, and colored, that allows them as a FOFOR trustee to freely go into the Sister Q trust that is created with the all capital letters, or the straw man that was created under the 14th Amendment. Thus, the corpse is created to slay the living. And this is how they cause injury to the living. Now, and so this is when we first started talking, and I said to you, give a synopsis, deposition of the situation. And you said, the VA, and then you started talking, and I stopped you and said, the VA can't do anything to you. It's a corpse. Corporation comes from corpse. Corporations were created in 1868 via the 14th Amendment. Now you understand why Drawley said the 14th Amendment is not necessary for the salvation of my people and citizens. However, if you don't know from a law perspective, you don't see the damage, which is what makes you blind at this point. You know, and so that them recognizing that you're not seeing that, and you're more, and you're saying it, and then you're not following it up, it like say, the door is off that safe. And this, you know, and now you're trying to figure out how to deal with this thing when you don't know how to approach it. You see the point? So some of these things is to give you some consciousness of your approach, because meaning that once you begin to understand the actuality of the politics, the protocols are like self-evident. Although you still going to use a little bit of studying, the protocols are evident because you're conscious of your position. You got to be, if you're on the chessboard, you got to know what your position is. You can't just make moves and not know what your position is. Now you're beginning to see the position. Well, thank you, sis. Share that with them for a minute. And then if we had copy machines, we'd copy that and give it to you. But that's the only copy I have right now. Now, the other deal, so if like we're here and we're a small body. Now, I know that some of you have been studying for a while already know this. But as a rule, with these adults not even knowing these basics, if you don't recognize the disadvantage that you have compared to other people, then we're even in worse trouble. But you need to recognize the disadvantage because everybody may be -1 or something like that should have raised their hand because these are basic 3rd grade civics. But it's only preserved for Europeans. That's why they used to keep separate schools, so that they would be educated and our people would not. So logically, we would be at a disadvantage. So in the real world of things, our people, out of frustration, would start getting Afrocentric to try to mentally get out of the jurisdiction while not understanding jurisdiction. Because the knowledge of jurisdiction must be specific. It must be absolutely known. It cannot be assumed. You cannot do things with the assumption that you're stepping outside their jurisdiction. Because if you're not in your proper person, you're in their jurisdiction. If you're transacting business in their name, you're in their jurisdiction. And property can't own property. See where estate and status come together? You see? So I wanted you to see that, to recognize its value. Also, I want you to, now, how many of you know what color means in law? Raise your hand. You're always going to raise your hand. Raise it anyway. Raise it anyway. All right. Now, good brother, can you come up for a second? Now, you know that our people, according to their training, generally think that they're people of color. They always say that. They say it with a sense of pride, don't they? All right. Now, again, we have to dismiss or remove a lot of things from our language because culture is not a language. And language is designed for us to confess a status, with us thinking that we're saying something different. And when you confess in your language to certain statuses, codes come into play, and your very conversation is the agreement and don't know it. And so therefore, our people must be aware of those things so that we can begin to fix it. All right? Now, there's color. Now, you might introduce yourself and then read it. Remember, we got the children in the back, so make sure they can hear you.
My blessing, Ruth Clinton L. Bay.
A little louder.
Islam.
Islam. A little louder.
An appearance.
No, read it. Color.
Oh, color. An appearance, semblance, or simulacrum as distinguished from that which is real.
Read it again.
An appearance.
Color.
Color. An appearance, semblance, or simulacrum as distinguished from that which is real. a prima facie or apparent right, hence a deceptive appearance, a plausible assumed exterior, concealing a lack of reality, a disguise or pretext.
Now, so when our people are trained by their marching leader guys that we're people of color and they use it as a term of endearment when they already know that it's a legal term that actually puts our people in a subjugated position. But if you're not national, you won't have that information and you'll use it loosely because everybody's saying it, not knowing that you're agreeing to the Christian Black Codes of 1724. And then, of course, when they enforce them, we'll be sitting around talking about they racist, doing a double standard of law, and we're agreeing to be something that we're not, therefore it does apply. Because anybody that's in dishonor of their mothers and fathers are listed as people of color. Fake people, that's what it means. Distinguished from that which is real. So the people that are not real people have rights of